The crimson dust of Zared-9 coated everything. It crept into the seams of environmental suits, corrupted machinery, and painted the sky a perpetual rust red that seemed to weigh on the soul. In the year 2378, this desolate mining colony on the edge of the Outer Rim had become a forgotten outpost, where dreams came to die and secrets festered in the underground warrens carved beneath the planet's inhospitable surface. Leo Harper adjusted the filtration mask covering his nose and mouth as he disembarked from his ship, the Nightshade. The small vessel had seen better days, but it was reliable and, more importantly, untraceable. Perfect for a bounty hunter who preferred to work in the shadows. The landing pad was nearly deserted, save for a few maintenance droids and a customs officer who barely glanced at his falsified credentials. "Purpose of visit?" the officer asked, his bored voice crackling through a worn-out transmitter. "Parts acquisition," Leo answered, the lie sliding easily from his lips. The officer stamped his documentation without further questions. Nobody came to Zared-9 without good reason, and nobody asked too many questions. The planet's primary export was silthium, a rare mineral used in high-end neural interfaces, but the mines had been largely depleted years ago. What remained was a hollowed-out shell of a colony, populated by those too poor or too stubborn to leave. Leo's real purpose was far more lucrative than scrounging for parts. An aerospace corporation based on Earth had hired him to recover stolen prototype technology. According to his intelligence, the thief had fled to Zared-9, likely to sell the tech to one of the alien clans that had made their home in the abandoned mining tunnels after the human corporations had moved on to richer deposits elsewhere. As he made his way from the spaceport to the underground city, Leo couldn't help but feel the weight of isolation pressing down on him. The settlement, optimistically named New Prosperity, was a labyrinth of repurposed mining shafts, cargo containers, and hastily constructed prefab units. Shops and dwellings were stacked atop one another in haphazard fashion, connected by a network of rusty catwalks and makeshift elevators. The few humans he passed wore the haunted look of those who had given up hope of ever seeing Earth again. The aliens, a diverse mix of species from across the galaxy, kept to themselves, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Tension hung in the recycled air like the ever-present red dust. Leo checked into a dingy hostel called the Miner's Rest, paying extra for privacy and no questions. The room was barely large enough for the cot and storage locker, but it would serve as a base of operations. He secured his gear and activated a small device that would scramble any surveillance equipment in the vicinity. "Computer, access local communication networks," he instructed his wrist unit. "Accessing," the AI replied, its feminine voice devoid of emotion. "Warning, local networks heavily fragmented and encrypted. Full access requires physical connection to central hub." Leo cursed under his breath. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. "Run background scan for any transmissions related to Earth technology or neural interfaces." "Scanning. Estimated completion time, 3 hours. With time to kill." Leo decided to do some old-fashioned reconnaissance. He changed into clothing that would help him blend in: worn coveralls, scuffed boots, and a utility belt loaded with common tools. The bounty hunter slipped a discreet plasma pistol into a hidden holster and covered it with a patched jacket. Armed, but not conspicuous. The lower levels of New Prosperity housed most of the colony's entertainment venues, if they could be called that. Grimy bars, gambling dens, and establishments offering more illicit pleasures operated in the open, their neon signs casting sickly colored light across the narrow thoroughfares. Leo entered a bar called the Broken Drill, ordered a synthetic whiskey, and positioned himself in a corner booth with a good view of the entrance. Years of experience had taught him that information flowed freely in places like this, especially after a few drinks loosened tongues. 3 hours and 2 drinks later, his patience was rewarded, but not in the way he expected. His wrist unit vibrated. "Scan complete. 1 anomalous transmission detected. Origin, Residential sector. Level B7. Transmission partially decoded. Please marry my mom. Human. She's all I have left. Leo frowned. It wasn't what he was looking for. But something about the message tugged at him. The phrasing was strange, desperate even, and it had been flagged by his scan, which meant it contained keywords related to his search parameters. Any connection to Earth tech? He asked quietly. Transmission contained encryption algorithms consistent with stolen prototype. Possible connection. That was enough to warrant investigation. Leo finished his drink and made his way toward the residential sector. Level B7 was even more dilapidated than the upper levels, home to the poorest residents of New Prosperity. The lighting was sporadic, leaving long stretches of corridor in near darkness. As he navigated the maze of narrow passageways, Leo became aware of eyes watching him from shadowed doorways. An outsider venturing into this territory was unusual enough to attract attention. He kept his hand close to his concealed weapon, alert for any sign of threat. A soft sound caught his attention. Footsteps, light and quick, retreating around a corner ahead. Leo followed cautiously, turning into an even narrower alley, lined with makeshift dwellings constructed from salvaged ship parts. The footsteps had stopped. Leo scanned the surroundings, his enhanced vision cutting through the gloom. A movement caught his eye, a small figure ducking behind a stack of empty crates. "I know you're there," he called out, keeping his voice neutral. "I'm not looking for trouble." Silence stretched for several seconds before a small voice replied, "Are you from Earth?" "I am," Leo confirmed, staying where he was to avoid frightening whoever was hiding. A small head peeked out from behind the crates. Even in the dim light, Leo could tell it wasn't human. The child, for it was clearly a child, had pale blue skin and large, iridescent eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. A Zeridian, one of the native species of this planet, though they rarely ventured into human settlements. "Did you get my message?" the child asked, still mostly hidden. Leo hesitated before answering truthfully. "I did. About your mom?" The child emerged fully now, revealing herself to be a girl of perhaps 7 or 8 years by human reckoning. She wore a patchwork dress made from various fabrics, and her feet were bare despite the cold metal floor. What Leo had first taken for hair was actually a crown of delicate, translucent tendrils that shifted color slightly as she moved. "My name is Nira," she said, approaching Leo with surprising boldness. "You have to help us. They're going to take my mother away tomorrow." "Who's going to take her away?" Leo asked, crouching down to the girl's level. "Korak and his hunters. They say she betrayed the clan." Nira's eyes darted nervously around the alley. "We shouldn't talk here. They have watchers everywhere." Before Leo could respond, Nira grabbed his hand. Her touch was cool and slightly electric, sending a tingle up his arm. "Please, follow me." Against his better judgment, Leo allowed the alien child to lead him deeper into the warren of Level B7. They passed through areas that seemed abandoned, climbing through a gap in a wall, and descending a maintenance ladder that led to an even lower level, not on any official colony maps. Finally, they reached what appeared to be an old escape pod that had been converted into a dwelling. The hatch was well hidden behind a holographic projection of solid wall, which Nira dispelled with a touch of her hand. "Inside," she whispered urgently. "Quickly." The interior of the pod was surprisingly cozy. Soft, bioluminescent fungi grew in patches on the walls, providing a gentle blue-green light. The minimal furnishings were neat and clean, a stark contrast to the squalor outside. Various artifacts and small electronic devices were arranged carefully on shelves built into the curved walls. Nira sealed the hatch behind them and activated what Leo recognized as a signal jammer. "Now we can talk safely," she said, her small face grave. "You should start by explaining who you are and what's happening to your mother," Leo suggested, finding a seat on a small cushion near the curved wall. Nira nodded solemnly. "My mother is Mira, She was leader of our clan until 3 cycles ago. Korak challenged her leadership and won through treachery. The girl's tendrils darkened to a deep purple, which Leo guessed indicated distress. He poisoned many against her, saying she was too friendly with outsiders, that she wanted to share our genetic secrets with humans. And was she? Leo asked carefully. She wanted peace and trade, not isolation and fear, Nira replied. Our numbers grow smaller each cycle. Without new connections, our clan will die. And now Korak plans to, what? Exile her. Nira's eyes widened. Worse, the harvest ritual. They will extract her genetic material for their bank, then sell her to the collectors. Leo had heard rumors of the collectors, shadowy figures who trafficked in exotic species for various purposes. None of them ethical. The thought of anyone, even an alien, being harvested for parts turned his stomach. Why me? He asked. Why send that specific message about marriage? In our clan, leadership can be challenged by any adult with clan connection. Marriage creates that connection. Nira's tendrils now shifted to a warm amber color. If you marry my mother, you can challenge Korak. You're strong. I can sense it. You could win. Leo laughed, though there was no humor in it. Kid, I'm not here to get involved in alien politics. I'm just passing through, looking for something that was stolen. What was stolen? Nira asked, her large eyes curious. Technology, neural interface prototypes, very valuable. Nira's tendrils suddenly glowed bright blue. Like this. She reached under a cushion and pulled out a small metallic device, roughly the size of her palm. Leo's eyes widened. It was exactly what he had been sent to recover. A prototype neural enhancer, worth millions to the right buyer. Where did you get that? He asked, his voice sharper than intended. Nira flinched slightly, but held her ground. Korak's hunters took it from a human trader. My mother bought it secretly, hoping to understand human neural patterns. Her eyes locked onto Leo's. She wanted to find ways for our species to communicate better, to understand each other. Leo reached for the device, but Nira pulled it back. I'll give it to you if you help us, she said, a cunning expression crossing her face. This is all I have to bargain with. You're blackmailing me? Leo couldn't help but feel a grudging admiration for the child's boldness. I'm offering a trade, Nira corrected. This device for your help, and... Her voice became smaller. I really don't have anyone else to ask. Please. She's all I have left. Leo sighed heavily. He should just take the device and leave. The job would be complete, the payment collected, and he could be off this dust bowl of a planet by morning. But something in the alien child's desperate plea resonated with him, stirring memories he'd rather keep buried. Tell me more about this harvest ritual, he said at last. When and where? Nira's face lit up with hope. Tomorrow night, in the old central mining chamber, Korak will perform it himself before the gathered clan. And your mother? Where is she now? In containment, deep in clan territory. The tunnels beyond the human settlement. Nira pointed to a crude map etched into a metal plate on the wall. Here. But there are sentries, security systems. You can't just walk in. Leo studied the map, his tactical mind already assessing approach vectors and potential weak points. I'll need more information. Guard rotations, security protocols. I can help with that, Nira said eagerly. I've been watching them, learning their patterns. For the next hour, Nira shared everything she knew about Korak's security arrangements. Despite her young age, the girl had an impressive grasp of detail and a keen observational intelligence. Leo found himself repeatedly surprised by her resourcefulness. There's one more thing, Nira said hesitantly, as they finished their planning. The marriage proposal must be made in person, before witnesses, for it to create a valid clan challenge. Leo grimaced. So I can't just rescue your mother quietly and slip away? I actually have to go through with this marriage thing? The ceremony itself can wait until after the challenge, Nira explained. But yes, you must publicly declare your intention to marry her and challenge Korak. It's the only way to stop the ritual legally. And if I just break her out without the challenge? Then you both become outcasts, hunted by all clans. Nira's tendrils darkened again. And I would be taken by Korak as his ward. Leo ran a hand through his hair in frustration. What had started as a simple recovery job had become exponentially more complicated. But the alternative, leaving a child to the mercy of what sounded like a tyrannical leader, and her mother to a fate worse than death, was unthinkable. I'm going to need weapons, he said finally. Nira's face broke into a wide smile, revealing teeth that were slightly pointed, but otherwise surprisingly human-like. I knew you would help us. Thank you. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, kid. This could all go very wrong. But despite his words, Leo found himself returning her smile. As night fell over New Prosperity, or what passed for night in the perpetually twilit underground city, Leo prepared for what would be a challenging infiltration. Nira had provided him with a schematic of the clan's territory, identifying guard posts and security measures. The girl had also given him a small vial of luminescent liquid. Bioscanner countermeasure, she explained. Rub it on your skin. It will mask your human genetic signature. Leo applied the substance, which tingled unpleasantly, but dried quickly. How long will this last? One full cycle, about 30 Earth hours. Armed with his plasma pistol and a few specialized tools of his trade, Leo set out for the boundary between the human settlement and clan territory. Nira had wanted to accompany him, but he had firmly refused. The mission was dangerous enough without having to protect a child. The transition between territories was subtle, a gradual shift from the industrial, metallic construction of the human settlement to more organic structures that incorporated living components. Bioluminescent fungi, similar to those in Nira's hideout, grew more abundantly here, providing soft illumination along pathways carved directly into the rock. Leo moved silently, keeping to shadows and avoiding the main thoroughfares. According to Nira's intelligence, the first security checkpoint should be just ahead, a biometric scanner that would alert guards to any non-Zeridian presence. As he approached, Leo could see the scanner, a pulsing, organ-like structure embedded in the tunnel wall. He held his breath as he passed it, half expecting alarms to sound, but Nira's countermeasure appeared to work. The scanner remained passive, deeper into clan territory. The tunnels became wider and more elaborate. The walls were carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift subtly in the corner of Leo's vision. Small dwellings were built into alcoves, their entrances covered with translucent membranes that pulsed gently, like breathing. Leo consulted the map Nira had provided. The containment area where Mira was being held should be 2 levels below, accessible via a spiral passage near the clan's communal gathering space. As he neared this area, voices became audible, the musical, slightly echoing speech of Zeridians. Leo pressed himself against the wall, waiting for them to pass. A group of 3 clan members walked by, their tendrils glowing a soft yellow as they conversed. They wore simple garments adorned with small crystalline structures that caught and refracted the bioluminescent light. Once they had gone, Leo continued toward the spiral passage. It descended steeply, the walls lined with the same living light sources, but spaced farther apart, leaving pools of shadow between them. At the bottom, a larger chamber opened up, its center dominated by what appeared to be a natural pool of dark liquid. Surrounding the pool were several enclosures, containment cells. Leo realized. Most were empty, but in one, a figure sat motionless on a simple platform that served as a bed. Leo approached cautiously, alert for guards or surveillance. The enclosure was sealed with an energy field that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Inside, the figure raised its head at his approach. Mira was immediately recognizable as Nira's mother. She had the same blue skin and iridescent eyes, though her facial structure was more angular, more defined. Her tendrils were longer, reaching past her shoulders, and currently, a deep, muted purple. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial garments, intricate layers of translucent material that shifted color slightly with her movements. Her eyes widened at the sight of Leo. "Human," she said, her voice musical but clearly wary. "What are you doing in clan territory?" "Nira sent me," Leo replied quietly, glancing around to ensure they were still alone. "I'm here to help you." Mira's tendrils lightened slightly, showing flashes of amber, similar to her daughter's. "Nira is safe? Thank the ancestral light. I feared Korak had found her." "She's safe, and very resourceful. She's the one who figured out how to get me past your security." Leo examined the energy field. "How do I deactivate this?" Mira pointed to a crystalline formation on the wall beside the enclosure. "The control node. But it requires genetic authentication. Only clan members can operate it." Leo frowned, considering his options. Nira mentioned something about a marriage proposal creating clan connection. Would that work? "A bonding declaration?" Mira looked shocked. "That's an extreme measure, and it would only work in the presence of clan witnesses. Then we need a different approach." Leo reached into his pack and removed a small device. "Technical solution it is." The device was a universal energy field disruptor, illegal in most systems, but invaluable in his line of work. He attached it to the base of the containment field and activated it. The energy field flickered, then stabilized. "Stronger than I expected," Leo muttered, adjusting the settings. On the third attempt, the field finally collapsed with a soft hiss. Mira stepped out of the enclosure, her movements graceful despite her obvious weakness. "They've been preparing me for the harvest," she explained, seeing Leo's concerned look. "Dietary restrictions to purify the genetic material." "Can you walk? We need to move quickly." Mira nodded. "I can manage, but the alert will sound soon. This facility has redundant systems." As if on cue, a low, pulsing tone began to emanate from the walls themselves. The bioluminescent fungi brightened in response, eliminating the shadows that had provided cover. "This way," Leo said, leading Mira toward a secondary passage Nira had marked on the map. It was narrower and less used, but should provide a more direct route back to the human settlement. They had only gone a short distance when voices and footsteps became audible behind them. "Guards," Mira whispered unnecessarily. Leo quickened their pace, supporting Mira when she stumbled. The passage inclined sharply upward, leading to a junction where several tunnels converged. Leo consulted the map hurriedly. "Left," he decided, pulling Mira into the leftmost tunnel, just as the guards appeared at the junction behind them. "Intruder alert! The prisoner has escaped!" one of the guards called out, his voice echoing through the tunnels. Leo and Mira pressed on, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. The tunnel began to narrow, the ceiling dropping lower until they were forced to crouch. Finally, it opened into a larger chamber that Leo recognized from Nira's map, an abandoned mining operation that connected to maintenance shafts leading back to the human settlement. But as they entered the chamber, Leo realized they weren't alone. A tall, imposing Zeridian stood on a raised platform across the room, surrounded by at least a dozen guards. His skin was a darker blue than Mira's, almost indigo, and his tendrils were pulled back and bound with metallic rings. He wore elaborate armor, made from what appeared to be both technological components and biological elements. "Korak," Mira breathed, her tendrils darkening to an almost black purple. The clan leader's eyes fixed on them, narrowing with recognition and rage. "The outcast returns, with human assistance no less. Your corruption knows no bounds, Mira." Leo pushed Mira slightly behind him, his hand moving to his weapon. "We're leaving. Stand aside." Korak laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "A human giving orders in clan territory? Your arrogance matches your ignorance." The guards began to spread out, moving to surround them. Leo assessed their weapons, primarily energy staves that could deliver a powerful shock, but a few carried what looked like projectile weapons as well. Poor odds, but he'd faced worse. "Last chance," Leo warned, drawing his plasma pistol. "Seize them," Korak ordered. The guards rushed forward. Leo fired 2 quick shots, dropping the nearest attackers, then grabbed Mira's arm and pulled her toward a stack of mining equipment that offered some cover. Plasma bolts sizzled past them, scorching the rock where they had stood moments before. From behind their makeshift barricade, Leo continued to fire, forcing the guards to seek their own cover. Mira, meanwhile, had seized an energy staff from one of the fallen guards and was wielding it with surprising skill. "I was clan leader for a reason," she said, noticing Leo's expression. The firefight continued for several minutes, reaching a stalemate. Leo and Mira were pinned down, but the guards couldn't approach without exposing themselves to Leo's accurate fire. Then Korak's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough of this! Bring her!" The guards parted, and 2 of them dragged forward a small, struggling figure. Leo's heart sank as he recognized Mira, her tendrils dark with fear and her face bruised. "No!" Mira cried, starting to rise from their cover. Leo pulled her back down as plasma fire erupted again. "Wait!" he hissed. "It's what he wants." "Surrender now," Korak called out, "or the child joins you in the harvest chamber." Leo's mind raced. He hadn't anticipated this complication, hadn't known that Mira would be captured. The girl had promised to stay hidden in her secret dwelling. "I have to go to her," Mira insisted, her eyes wild with maternal fear. "If we surrender, all 3 of us die," Leo countered. "We need another option." He scanned the chamber, looking for any advantage. The mining equipment, the structural supports, the ceiling with its network of pipes and conduits. An idea formed. "I need a distraction," he told Mira. "Something to draw their attention for just a few moments." Mira nodded, her expression resolute. "I can provide that." Without further explanation, Mira raised her hands and began to sing, a haunting, otherworldly melody that seemed to resonate with the very rock around them. As she sang, her tendrils began to glow brightly, pulsing with light in rhythm with her song. The effect on the Zeridian guards was immediate. They lowered their weapons, their own tendrils beginning to glow in response to Mira's display. "The ancestral calling," one of them murmured, awe evident in his voice. Even Korak seemed momentarily transfixed, his grip on Mira loosening slightly. Leo didn't waste the opportunity. While the guards were distracted, he aimed his pistol at the ceiling above Korak's position and fired 3 rapid shots. The plasma bolts struck a junction of pipes, causing a cascade of ruptures. Steam and debris rained down, creating chaos and confusion. In the same moment, Mira wrenched herself free from Korak's slackened grip and darted away, moving with the quick agility of a child accustomed to navigating difficult terrain. "Run!" Leo shouted to her, indicating their position with a wave. Mira sprinted toward them as Leo provided covering fire, preventing the guards from pursuing her. The girl dived behind their barricade, immediately embracing her mother with desperate intensity. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "They found me when I tried to get supplies for our journey." "It doesn't matter," Mira soothed, holding her daughter close. "You're safe now." Leo kept his focus on the guards, who were regrouping under Korak's angry commands. "We need to move. That distraction won't buy us much more time." Mira pointed to a narrow opening partly concealed behind a piece of abandoned machinery. "That maintenance shaft should lead to the upper levels." They made their way toward it, Leo continuing to fire periodically to keep the guards at bay. The shaft was cramped, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees, but it offered protection from pursuit. After what felt like hours of navigating the claustrophobic passage, they emerged into a larger tunnel that Nira recognized. "We're near the boundary with the human settlement," she confirmed. "Through that archway." As they approached the archway, however, they discovered their path was blocked. A squad of Korak's hunters stood guard at the boundary, their weapons ready. "He anticipated our route," Mira said grimly. "Is there another way?" Leo asked, checking the charge on his pistol. It was dangerously low after the extended firefight. Nira's face scrunched in concentration. "Yes, but it's dangerous. The old mining bridge crosses the Great Chasm. If it still stands, it would take us directly to level B7. And if it doesn't still stand?" Leo asked. "Then we fall into the deepest mines," Nira replied simply. "No one returns from there." Mira shook her head. "It's too risky. The bridge was unstable even before the mining operation ceased." "We don't have much choice," Leo pointed out. "We can't go back and we can't go forward. That leaves sideways." With reluctance, Mira agreed. And they followed Nira through a series of increasingly narrow and less maintained tunnels. The air grew thinner and colder, and the bioluminescent fungi that had lit their way became scarce, forcing them to rely on the natural glow of Mira and Nira's tendrils. Finally, they reached the edge of what could only be described as an abyss. A vast, open space stretched before them, so deep that the bottom was lost in darkness. Spanning the chasm was a bridge, if it could be called that. It was more accurately a collection of metal walkways and platforms that had been connected together, creating a precarious path across the void. "That's our way across?" Leo asked incredulously. Nira nodded. "It was used by maintenance workers after the main lifts were decommissioned." Leo tested the nearest section with his foot. The metal groaned but held. "I'll go first. Stay close behind me, and move exactly where I move." The crossing was nerve-wracking. The bridge swayed with every step, and several sections had rusted through, creating gaps that had to be carefully navigated. Halfway across, a section gave way entirely beneath Leo's foot, and only his quick reflexes saved him from plummeting into the abyss. They were 3/4 of the way across when the sound of pursuit reached them. Korak himself had led a group of hunters along their trail, and now stood at the edge of the chasm. "There's nowhere left to run. Mira," he called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. "Surrender now, and I may yet show mercy to your daughter." "Never trust him, Mother," Nira urged. "Remember what happened to Father." Leo glanced at Mira, whose face had hardened at the mention of her presumably deceased mate. "Keep moving," he told them. "We're almost there." But as they neared the far side, Leo noticed something that made his blood run cold. Small, blinking lights were attached to the support structures of the bridge, explosive charges, set to destroy the crossing. "He's mined the bridge," Leo warned Mira. "If we make it across, he'll bring it down to prevent anyone following." "Then we must hurry," Mira replied, urging Nira ahead of her. They increased their pace, despite the danger of the unstable structure. Behind them, Korak and his hunters had begun to cross as well, moving with the sure-footed confidence of those familiar with the terrain. With a final surge of effort, Leo, Mira, and Nira reached the far side, the solid rock a welcome relief after the precarious bridge. But their pursuers were gaining quickly. Leo made a split-second decision, drawing his pistol. He took careful aim, not at Korak or his hunters, but at one of the explosive charges attached to the bridge's main support. "Get back!" he shouted to Mira and Nira, then fired. The plasma bolt struck the charge, detonating it instantly. The explosion triggered a chain reaction as other charges ignited in sequence. The bridge shuddered violently, then began to collapse in sections, starting from the middle and working outward. Korak and his hunters, caught in the middle of the span, scrambled desperately for safety. Some managed to retreat to their side of the chasm, while others fell screaming into the darkness below. Korak himself clung to a broken section of walkway, his powerful arms straining to pull himself up to a more stable position. For a moment, Leo considered leaving him to his fate, but something stopped him. Perhaps the thought of how Nira would view such an action, or a deeper ethical impulse he'd thought long buried. "Grab my hand," he called out, lying flat on the edge and extending his arm toward the clan leader. Korak looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "Why would you help me, human?" "Because I'm not you," Leo replied simply. After a moment's hesitation, Korak reached up and clasped Leo's forearm. With Mira's help, Leo pulled the Zeridian to safety, the three of them collapsing on solid ground as the last sections of the bridge fell away into the abyss. Korak lay on his back, breathing heavily, his tendrils a confused swirl of colors. "You saved me, after I threatened your life and the lives of your companions." "Don't make me regret it," Leo warned, rising to his feet and keeping his pistol trained on the clan leader. Nira approached cautiously, her large eyes fixed on Korak. "You tried to take my mother from me," she said, her voice small but steady. "You said it was for the good of the clan, but it was only for your benefit." Korak did not deny the accusation. Instead, he looked past the child to Mira. "The clan is dying. The genetic bank needed new material, strong material. Your line has always produced the most viable offspring." "There are better ways to ensure our survival," Mira replied. "Ways that don't involve harvesting our own people." "Like alliance with humans?" Korak sneered, though the effect was somewhat diminished by his prone position. "They will use us, study us, then discard us when we no longer serve their purpose." "Some might," Leo admitted, "but not all, just as not all Zeridians are like you." A distant rumbling interrupted their confrontation. The explosion and collapse of the bridge had apparently triggered seismic instability in the already fragile mining tunnels. "We need to move," Leo urged. "This whole section could come down." Mira nodded, helping Nira to her feet. "What about him?" she asked, gesturing to Korak. Leo considered for a moment. "We take him with us. He can face clan justice once we're somewhere safe." They made their way through the tunnels toward the human settlement, the occasional tremor hastening their steps. Korak did not resist, perhaps recognizing that his survival now depended on cooperation. As they emerged into the more populated areas of Level B7, they attracted immediate attention. A mixed group of humans and aliens gathered around them, murmuring in surprise at the sight of Zeridians in the human settlement, particularly the bound figure of Korak. Among the crowd, several Zeridians pushed forward, clan members who had been living in the human areas, either as traders or exiles. "Mira!" one of them called out, his tendrils brightening with recognition. "We thought you lost to the harvest!" "Thalon," Mira greeted him warmly. "It seems reports of my harvesting were premature." Thalon and the other Zeridians gathered around Mira protectively, their tendrils creating a colorful display that Leo interpreted as joy or relief. When they noticed Korak, however, their demeanor changed to wariness. "The usurper," Thalon hissed. "He drove many of us from our homes with his isolationist policies. And now he stands exposed as a traitor to clan principles," Mira announced loudly, addressing the growing crowd. "He would have harvested a clan leader for genetic material, violating our most sacred laws." The gathered Zeridians murmured in shock and anger. Even those who might have supported Korak's rise to power seemed disturbed by this revelation. "I call for a clan gathering," Mira continued. "Let all who acknowledge the old ways come and bear witness. Korak must answer for his crimes." "You have no authority to call a gathering," Korak protested. "You were removed from leadership." "Through treachery and lies," Mira countered. "And now I formally challenge your right to lead." A ripple of excitement passed through the Zeridian onlookers. Clan challenges were rare and always significant events in their society. "You have no standing," Korak insisted. You were expelled from the clan. She has standing through me, Leo found himself saying, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him, human and alien alike. Mother, Nero whispered excitedly, tugging at Mira's garment. He's going to do it. Leo took a deep breath, feeling slightly ridiculous, but committed to the course of action. I, Leo Harper of Earth, formally request bonding with Mira of the Zeridian clan. By your laws, this gives her standing to issue challenge. The gathered Zeridians erupted in a mix of astonishment, confusion, and excitement. Humans in the crowd looked equally bewildered, some laughing at what they perceived as a joke, others watching with fascination. Mira herself seemed stunned, her tendrils cycling rapidly through various colors before settling on a deep gold that seemed to illuminate her from within. You would bond with me, knowing what it means in our culture? If it gives you the chance to reclaim your position and protect your people and your daughter, then yes, Leo replied, hoping he wouldn't regret the decision. Thalon stepped forward, his posture formal. As elder of the displaced clan members, I recognize and witness this bonding request. It is valid under the ancient laws. Korak's face contorted with rage. This is an abomination. Humans cannot enter the sacred bond. The laws speak only of beings with soul light, Thalon countered. They do not specify form or origin. If Mira accepts, the bonding is valid, and with it, her right to challenge. All eyes turned to Mira, waiting for her response. She looked at Leo thoughtfully, then at Nira, whose face was alight with hope. I accept the bonding request, she said finally, her voice clear and confident. A cheer went up from the gathered Zeridians, while the humans in the crowd began speculating wildly about what they were witnessing. The challenge must proceed immediately, Thalon declared. We will use the old arena on level C3. It has been abandoned since the mining ceased, but it remains sacred ground to our people. Preparations were made quickly. Word spread through both the human settlement and the clan territories, drawing a substantial crowd to the ancient arena, a circular chamber carved directly from the bedrock, its walls embedded with crystals that glowed with inner light when activated. Leo found himself in a small antechamber, being prepared for the challenge by Nira and Thalon. They painted symbolic patterns on his face and hands with a luminescent substance, similar to what had helped him evade the bioscanners. The challenge has 3 parts, Thalon explained as he worked. Physical combat, mental resilience, and spiritual connection. To win, you must prevail in at least 2. I didn't realize I would be the one facing Korak, Leo admitted. I thought Mira would issue the challenge herself. The bonding candidate fights on behalf of their mate, Nira explained. It's tradition. Great, Leo muttered. Any other traditions I should know about before I get out there? Victory doesn't always require defeating Korak, Thalon said. Sometimes demonstrating superior qualities is enough to sway the clan's judgment. And if I lose? Thalon's tendrils darkened. Then Korak remains leader, and both you and Mira face exile at best, harvest at worst. No pressure, then, Leo said dryly. When the preparations were complete, Leo was led into the arena proper. The space was larger than he had imagined, with tiered seating surrounding the central fighting area. Every seat was filled, primarily with Zeridians, but with a significant number of humans, and other alien species as well. Across the arena, Korak emerged from another antechamber, his massive frame adorned with ceremonial armor, and his tendrils bound with rings that seemed to enhance rather than restrict their movement. In the center of the arena stood Mira, now dressed in elaborate ceremonial garments that marked her former status as clan leader. Beside her was a pedestal on which sat a crystalline object that pulsed with inner light. As Leo approached, the crowd fell silent. Mira gestured for him to stand opposite Korak, with the pedestal between them. The challenge of leadership begins, she announced, her voice carrying throughout the arena without apparent amplification. Korak, son of Zorak, faces Leo of Earth, bonding candidate of Mira, daughter of Lyra. May the soul light guide and truth prevail. The crystalline object on the pedestal flared brightly, then projected a dome of shimmering energy that enclosed the three of them, separating them from the watching crowd. The first trial is physical, Mira declared. Combat until submission or incapacitation. Without warning, Korak launched himself at Leo, moving with surprising speed for his size. Leo barely had time to dodge, rolling aside as Korak's fist struck the ground where he had stood, cracking the stone. Leo drew his plasma pistol, but Mira's voice cut through his concentration. No weapons. The challenge must be met with natural abilities only. Cursing under his breath, Leo holstered the pistol and faced Korak empty-handed. The Zeridian leader smiled, revealing pointed teeth. Now, you understand the futility of your position. Human. Korak attacked again, his movements fluid and powerful. Leo defended himself as best he could, using the combat training he'd received during his years as a bounty hunter. He was quicker than Korak, but the Zeridian's superior strength and reach gave him a significant advantage. The fight continued for several minutes, with Leo managing to land a few solid strikes, but taking more damage than he inflicted. A particularly powerful blow sent him sprawling across the arena floor, his ribs screaming in protest. As Korak approached to deliver what might have been a finishing strike, Leo's mind raced. Physical victory seemed unlikely. But perhaps there was another way. "Is this how a leader behaves?" he called out, loud enough for the watching crowd to hear. "Beating an opponent who came to your aid? Who saved your life when he could have let you fall?" Korak hesitated, confusion crossing his features. "This is combat. Mercy has no place here." "Then you misunderstand leadership," Leo replied, struggling to his feet. "A true leader knows when to show strength and when to show compassion." A murmur passed through the crowd. Leo could see many of the Zeridians nodding in agreement. "Philosophical debates won't save you, human," Korak growled, advancing again. But Leo had bought himself a moment to recover, and this time he was ready. As Korak attacked, Leo used the Zeridian's momentum against him, executing a perfect throw that sent Korak crashing to the ground. Before Korak could rise, Leo was on him, applying a chokehold he'd learned during a particularly unpleasant job on Ganymede. Korak struggled, but the hold was secure, gradually cutting off his air supply. "Submit," Leo hissed in his ear. "There's no shame in it. The shame would be in forcing me to end you when there's no need." For a long moment, Korak continued to struggle. Then, as consciousness began to fade, he tapped Leo's arm, the universal signal of submission. Leo released him immediately, stepping back as Korak gasped for air. The crowd erupted in cheers and exclamations, clearly surprised by the outcome. "The first trial goes to Leo of Earth," Mira announced, her tendrils glowing brightly. Korak rose slowly to his feet, his expression a mixture of rage and grudging respect. "You fight well, for a human." "The second trial is mental resilience," Mira continued, placing her hands on the crystalline object. It began to pulse more rapidly, the energy dome around them taking on a purplish hue. "Your minds will be connected through the soul crystal," she explained. "Each will attempt to overwhelm the other with their strongest memories and emotions. The one who maintains their sense of self prevails." Before Leo could process this information, his consciousness was violently pulled into a swirling vortex of sensation and memory. He found himself experiencing Korak's life as if it were his own, the pride of being born to a prestigious lineage, the rigorous training of a future leader, the fear and anger when human mining operations threatened clan territories. Deeper memories followed. The loss of family members to human-introduced diseases. The growing conviction that isolation was the only way to preserve Zeridian culture and genetic purity. The hunger for power that had gradually corrupted noble intentions. It was overwhelming, threatening to submerge Leo's sense of self entirely. But he fought back, pushing his own memories and emotions into the connection. He shared the pain of his own losses, the loneliness of his existence, the small moments of connection and compassion that had kept him human despite his often brutal profession. Most powerfully, he shared the unexpected bond he had formed with Nira and the protective instinct she had awakened in him, an instinct he had thought long dead after years of hardening himself against the galaxy's cruelties. The mental battle raged for what felt like hours, but was likely only minutes. Finally, with a tremendous effort of will, Leo managed to reassert his own identity, pushing Korak's consciousness back and reclaiming his mental space. The connection broke abruptly, leaving both men gasping and disoriented. Leo fell to his knees, while Korak staggered back several steps before regaining his balance. "The second trial goes to Leo of Earth," Mira declared, though her voice seemed to come from very far away. Leo struggled to his feet, his head pounding. Across from him, Korak looked equally drained, his tendrils hanging limply, and their color faded to a dull blue-gray. "The final trial is spiritual connection," Mira said, her voice stronger now. "Each must demonstrate their connection to the soul light that binds all living beings." The crystal on the pedestal changed again, its light becoming a soft, golden glow that filled the energy dome. Leo felt a strange sensation, as if he were simultaneously expanding beyond his physical form and being examined by countless, invisible presences. "Open yourself to the collective consciousness of our ancestors," Mira instructed. "Let them judge your worthiness to lead." Leo had no idea how to do this. His experience with spiritual matters was limited at best, and certainly didn't include alien ancestral consciousness. But as he stood there, uncertain, he felt a small hand slip into his. Nira had somehow entered the energy dome and now stood beside him, her tendrils glowing with a pure white light. "I'll help you," she whispered. "Just follow my lead." With Nira as his guide, Leo allowed his consciousness to expand once more, but in a controlled, directed manner. He found himself in a vast, star-filled space, surrounded by countless points of light that he somehow understood were the essences of Zeridian ancestors. They questioned him without words, probing his intentions, his character, his capacity for leadership. Leo answered truthfully, acknowledging his flaws and limitations, but also affirming his commitment to protecting Nira, and by extension, their clan. The examination seemed to last both an instant and an eternity. When Leo's awareness returned to the physical world, he found himself still standing, while Korak had fallen to his knees, his head bowed in apparent defeat. "The ancestors have spoken," Mira announced, her voice filled with emotion. "The final trial goes to Leo of Earth. The challenge is complete. Leadership returns to me, with Leo as my bonded mate." The energy dome dissipated, and the crowd's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Cheers erupted from most of the Zeridians, particularly those who had been living in exile. Even many of the humans and other aliens joined in, caught up in the drama of the moment. Korak remained on his knees, his tendrils now a pale, defeated blue. "The ancestors have rejected me," he said quietly. "My path was wrong." Leo approached him cautiously. "What happens to him now?" he asked Mira. "Traditionally, a defeated leader faces exile," she replied. "But I believe there may be a better way." Mira addressed the gathered clan members. "Korak sought to preserve our people through isolation and genetic harvesting. His methods were wrong, but his concern for our survival was genuine. I propose a different path, integration and alliance, beginning with this unprecedented bonding between human and Zeridian." She turned to Korak. "You have skills and knowledge that our clan needs. Will you set aside your pride and work toward our common survival under my leadership?" Korak looked up, surprise evident in his iridescent eyes. "You would offer reconciliation after what I've done?" A true leader knows when to show strength and when to show compassion, Mira replied, echoing Leo's earlier words. The choice is yours. After a long moment, Korak bowed his head. I accept your offer, Leader Mira. My skills are yours to command. A murmur of approval spread through the crowd. Reconciliation, rather than retribution, was clearly an unexpected but welcome development. With the challenge complete and leadership restored, the formal proceedings gave way to celebration. The arena was transformed into a feast hall, with food and drink appearing seemingly from nowhere. Music filled the air, a strange but not unpleasant combination of traditional Zeridian melodies and more familiar human tunes. Leo found himself the center of much attention, with clan members approaching to touch his shoulder, or hands in what Nira explained was a gesture of respect and welcome. He accepted the congratulations awkwardly, still processing the events of the day and their implications for his future. Are you all right? Mira asked, finding him alone for a moment at the edge of the celebration. You seem troubled. Just adjusting, Leo admitted. 24 hours ago, I was a bounty hunter looking for stolen tech. Now I'm apparently married to an alien clan leader and have an adopted daughter. It's a lot to take in. Mira's tendrils shifted to a gentle, soothing amber. The bonding ceremony hasn't been performed yet. It was only the declaration that was needed for the challenge. You are not bound to us, if that is not your wish. Leo looked across the room to where Nira was animatedly describing the day's events to a group of young Zeridians, her tendrils practically vibrating with excitement. And what about Nira? She went through a lot to bring me here, to make this happen. She would understand, Mira said softly. She wants happiness for me, but not at the cost of your freedom. Leo was silent for a long moment, considering his options. He could leave now, collect his payment for recovering the neural interface prototype, and return to his solitary existence as a bounty hunter. It would be the sensible choice, the professional choice. But as he watched Nira, saw the joy and hope in her face, he realized that something had changed within him. The connection he'd formed with the alien child and her mother had awakened parts of himself he'd thought long dead. The capacity for attachment, for caring, for belonging. What would it mean? He asked finally. The bonding. I mean, what would it require of me? Mira's tendrils brightened. A true bonding is a merging of lives. You would become part of our clan, share in our traditions, help lead our people. We would leave this place, find a neutral world where humans and Zeridians could live together in peace. And us, you and me? We would be partners in all things, Mira replied. The nature of that partnership would be for us to determine together, over time. Leo nodded slowly. I think I'd like that, to see where this leads. Mira's tendrils now glowed with a radiant gold that lit up her entire face. You would stay with us, truly? I would, if you'll have me. Mira reached out, placing her cool hand against his cheek. We would be honored, Leo of Earth. The official bonding ceremony took place 3 days later, after preparations had been made for the clan's departure from Zerid 9. A neutral planet had been identified, Elysium 6, a relatively new colony with liberal immigration policies and a reputation for harmonious multi-species communities. The ceremony itself was simpler than Leo had expected. Standing before the assembled clan in the same arena where the challenge had taken place, he and Mira exchanged vows of loyalty and partnership. Nira stood between them, a symbolic bridge connecting their different worlds. The final element of the ceremony involved a small incision made in each of their palms. As their blood mingled, Leo felt a strange sensation, a subtle but unmistakable connection forming between his consciousness and Mira's. Not a full mental link like during the challenge, but an awareness, a sense of her presence that he knew would remain regardless of physical distance. The bonding is complete, Thalon announced. Leo of Earth is now Leo of Clan Lyra, bonded to Leader Mira. As the clan erupted in celebration once more, Nira threw her arms around Leo's waist, her tendrils glowing with pure white joy. "I knew you would save us," she said, looking up at him with absolute trust in her large, iridescent eyes. Leo placed his hand gently on her head, feeling the cool, electric tingle of her tendrils against his skin. "You saved me too, kid," he replied softly. "More than you know." 1 week later, as their ship broke orbit from Zerid 9, Leo stood at the viewport, watching the rust-red planet recede. Mira joined him, her shoulder touching his in a gesture that had already become familiar and comforting. "Having second thoughts?" she asked. Leo shook his head. "Just saying goodbye to my old life." "And looking forward to the new one," Nira added, squeezing between them to claim her place. Together, as the stars stretched into lines of light around them, marking their entry into faster-than-light travel, Leo felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges he couldn't begin to anticipate. But for the first time in a very long time, he wasn't facing it alone. "Together," he agreed, placing one arm around Mira and the other around Nira. "That's all that matters." And as Zerid 9 disappeared behind them, becoming just another point of light in the vast expanse of space, Leo Harper, bounty hunter, reluctant hero, and now bonded mate and adoptive father, found himself looking forward to whatever the universe had in store for his new family.